Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where we listen to you as you tell us what kind of stories you want to hear. I'm still waiting. I'm, of course, Levi.
And I'm Seth.
And no Reed today. Don't worry, I know he's been absent for 2 episodes. He's still alive. He's just visiting family. Well, we have a recap episode, a rating we have to give it, a story written by an AI. I think that's it. And then we can sign off. Go to sleep. How are you doing, Seth?
Sleep is for dead people.
Yes. Yes, it is.
No, it's for me. It's for me too.
All right. So we are going to be talking about our inspirations and our likes and dislikes, what we thought was cool, what we thought worked and didn't work with our latest story called, I'm having a bit of brain freeze, The Music of the Spheres. I think the Music of the Spheres.
I thought it was just the music of the spheres.
What?
I thought it was just the music of the spheres. I didn't know it had the brain freeze, part.
Oh, no. Hilarious. No, I don't know that it had music or spheres in it, but that's fine. So should I read the little synopsis that I wrote?
Sure.
All right. Here goes nothing. Okay. So in the near future, Earth, a charismatic leader from Portugal, has forged most of the world into a single prosperous hegemony, only to die suddenly, leaving the fragile union on the brink of fragmentation. Meanwhile, To the Infinity and Beyond Corporation detonates nuclear devices on Mars poles to kickstart terraforming. The results are astonishingly rapid. Atmosphere, water vapor, and an ozone layer form in weeks instead of centuries. Unknown to the jubilant scientists, these explosions have awakened Mars, the ancient cosmic being, imprisoned on the red planet after a primordial rebellion. Mars was one of the 9 godlike administrators who maintain universal order through harmonic frequencies. Defeated and bound, he now reactivates his long-dormant and indestructible insectoid army powered by the very electromagnetic noise humanity has been beaming into space. A journalist, Carl, uncovers the darkest secret. Organic humans go irreversibly mad beyond Earth's atmosphere. All astronauts and future Mars colonists are actually digitized consciousness, piloted from Earth or remote droids. Exposing this would shatter the dream of Exodus and likely fracture the already unstable world governments, just as an alien invasion looms. Newly invented quantum portals offer a way to step instantly from Earth to Mars, bypassing the madness until Mars swarms prepare to pour through them the other way. In the end, Carl deliberately withholds the truth. The revelation is suppressed. The world unites under a new authoritarian superstate, and humanity repels the invasion. Centuries later, the victorious imperial city on Mars gleams as propaganda's crowning achievement. The real events, gods, cover-ups, and the price of survival, are dismissed as quaint myths by a population that never learns what was sacrificed to save it. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Great. Should I read the short story now, or do you want to give your some thoughts or your score or whatever?
Let's hear the short story while we're on.
So just so we're clear, I had AI write this, and as we've noticed in the past, AI sometimes takes liberties with things. So this isn't,
which is amusing at times.
Yes. So this isn't the short story. It doesn't necessarily follow thematically in a way that we would like. But until I can get someone to write a short story based on the stories that we come up with, I'm going to have AI do it because I don't have any time to do it. Okay, you ready? The last train.
Get one of those 24-hour clocks. So instead of a 12-hour rotation in your day, you have 24 hours.
Oh, perfect.
You don't know this trick?
Oh, perfect. Right. I'll start viewing each half hour as an hour, so that way I'll have 48 hours in a day. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
The last train to New Lisbon left at 3:17. Carl stood on the platform beneath the new glass roof, collar coat up, holding a single paper ticket that cost more than most people earned in a month. Around him, families clutched government fund-issued duffels, stamped with the gold infinity sigil. Children waved tiny flags. a brass band played the anthem of the hegemony. Bright, martial, impossible to forget. He was supposed to board with them. Every dissident, every separatist, every loudmouth who refused the new census had been offered the same choice. Accept unity or accept a fresh start on the red frontier. Mars needed hands. Mars forgave everything. Carl had spent 3 years proving Mars was a lie. He still had the drive in his pocket, the one with the medical logs, the black budget autopsies, the helmet cam footage of astronauts who came home, smiling and empty. He had carried it across 6 provinces, changing his name twice, sleeping in drainage pipes while the directorate hunted him. Tonight was the end game. Upload the files from the platform public's terminal. Let the world see what happened when flesh crossed the Kármán line, then vanish into the Exodus before the drones found him. The terminal screen flickered. Upload. 37%. 38%. A soft voice behind him, old and precise, amused. You're making a mistake, Mr. Arville. Dr. Nora Hart stepped from the shadows, leaning on an ebony cane, despite looking no older than 70. Her eyes were the pale blue of the Martian sky in the propaganda reels. Carl's hand slid towards the pistol he no longer carried. They sent you. They didn't need to. I'm catching the last train. She nodded towards the far track, where a sleek silver carriage waited. No flags, no band, just the infinity signal in crimson. Come with me instead. One stop, earlier than the rest. I'm not getting on that train to nowhere. It isn't nowhere anymore. She tapped her cane against the tiles. The sound hummed like a distant bells. Mars is awake, and it's hungry. The upload froze at 41%. Across the station, every screen went red. A low chord, too deep for human ears, rumbled through the glass roof. Travelers clutched their heads. Children began to scream in perfect unison, the same note, over and over. Dr. Hart never blinked. The God you never believed in just opened the gates the other way. In 11 minutes, the first wave will step through every portal on Earth. Your files won't matter then. Carl stared at the frozen progress bar. All that proof, all those deaths, suddenly weightless. What do you want? He whispered. She offered her arm, frail but steady. I want the man who knows the price of truth to decide, again, whether humanity deserves to hear it while it's being torn apart. Come, we have 9 minutes to choose for them. The brass bands had gone silent. The flags hung limp. Somewhere in the dark between platforms, something clicked like mandibles tasting air. Carl took her arm. The silver carriage door sighed open. Inside, soft light, 2 seats, and a window already showing rust-red dunes beneath a sky the color of fresh blood. As the train pulled away from New Lisbon, Carl felt the drive in his pocket grow warm, then hot, and then melt against his skin like a dying coal. Dr. Hart closed her eyes and smiled, the way a gardener smiled when the first shoot breaks the soil. Welcome home, she said. Outside the window, the stars were singing. So it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I think as far as like a narrative, like a situational narrative,
yeah,
it's probably one of the better ones, like put together wise.
Right.
But like as far as the congruency with what I think we had laid out kind of happening, like it leaves it where like, I don't know, like it would seem to indicate that like, well, the world is dying. They just go to Mars.
Right. Exactly. And that might be the fact that our explanation and writing don't exactly actually conclude the story in a way that makes sense to the AI. Because I created transcripts from all of our episodes and then uploaded them to the AI and then asked it some questions, had it read the transcripts and then asked it some questions about it and then said, here, write me a short story written in the universe. And it wrote that, So maybe this is also a lesson for us to kind of, I think sometimes, I know I do anyways, come up with fun ideas and then continue to come up with fun ideas and not actually settle on anything,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say a minute ago, because sometimes we'll come up with something and then it'll slightly change or the outcome of it will slightly change. Like with the like with what the information Carl has. Kind of in the first episode, it was kind of undecided, but it seemed like information that he should release.
Right.
And in the end, him taking more of a role of that, like, I have the information and I'm manipulating it to do this thing, and it plays into the propaganda arm to make this happen, to kind of be the good guy of the thing, but not necessarily from our moral perspective a good guy, but you know what I mean. But
yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, I still think that in most of the ones put together, like the interactional narrative worked well.
Yeah. And I feel like just having the AI write these stories for us will also, because it kind of acts like a reader. It kind of acts like a person who's listening to the episode and telling us what they think it's about. You know what I mean? Even though AI isn't like intelligent, sorry, AI. Even though it actually, you know, it does kind of give us a sense of some comprehension, you know?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happened when uploaded the transcripts was I had a prompt to have it describe the insectoid army, and it created like a huge breakout. But a lot of these are like pulled from like Zerg from StarCraft, the game, and from like the what are those things called from the Alien movies? The xenomorphs.
Yeah, xenomorphs.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting to see like this is essentially, as we described it, what people are going to, what references people are going to have for an insectoid-like creature. Well, it's going to be xenomorphs, and it's going to be the Zerg. It's going to be Starship Trooper, you know, it's going to be the buggers from the Ender series, you know, that's what people have as a point of reference. And even though when I was describing them, I had a picture in my brain, even the picture in my brain was slightly Zerg, Xenomorph, Starship Trooper, you know what I mean? Buggers from Ender series.
Yeah.
And so it's, I think the whole using AI thing is an interesting experiment because it uses, you know, the internet to gain its information and its points of reference. And so it's kind of an interesting kind of look back at like, that's really what I do as well. That's how I get that's where I get my ideas from, is the books I read and the things I think about. And so it's really interesting to see an artificial thing trying to do the same thing. But this isn't an AI podcast. It's a storytelling podcast. So we don't need to dwell on like the complexities of AI at this present juncture. The next time we have a story where AI features really heavily in it, it'll be interesting to see how the AI writes it, and if the AI kind of tries to redeem itself. Because we did, didn't we? Yeah. The other one we used the AI to write the story with, it kind of tried to redeem itself a little bit.
I think so.
Which was kind of off-putting and strange, and makes me want to get a Spaz 12 so that I can fight off the Terminator. But
yeah, no. As far as like rating and review of the story, I would.
I definitely feel like once again there were certain aspects of it that we didn't really get into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there were parts that I really enjoyed or liked, but again, like that, I think not having Reed that last week too let a few things fall to the wayside. And I mean, I like how we wrapped it up to a point. It was something a bit different. You know, I'll probably give it a 6.
Yeah, I'd probably be about a 6 myself as well.
You know, there was, I think there was a lot of different things going on. I think we brought a lot of it together well enough to a degree, but again, you kind of get to the third episode and there's, all the loose ideas that didn't quite go anywhere.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the thing that I need to, it's really easy for me to come up with ideas, but then sort of following them through and making sure they're backed up by good structure is always difficult. So I asked AI what it would rate this, and it gave us a 9.5 out of 10 for world building, a 9 out of 10 for premise and themes, an 8 out of 10 for character use, an 8 out of 10 for pacing and structure, and then a 9.5 out of 10 for what if value.
So that rated pretty high then.
Yeah, but AI, it's kind of, it's kind
Here,
of,
let me give you something that'll make you
it's
happy.
built to like massage my shoulders,
Not perfect, but
it's
like,
built to like
yeah.
massage my shoulders. So I don't really, I just think it's funny. But one of the things that I had, how I came up with my random insert, the weird insectoids on Mars, is I was thinking of just like the amount of radio transmissions that have increased, and not just radio like FM and AM radio, but like every single phone has a radio in it. Bluetooth is a radio. Even electronics are giving out like, just like a washer is giving out, like, because of the electricity that's running in it, is giving out like radio interference. And I was like,
yeah,
what kind of interesting like post-apocalyptic world could that be if there was these things that lay dormant after a long fight and humanity restarted, and then we get up to the place that we start using radios again, like we reinvent the radio, and then it like slowly wakes these things up as we get more and more and more advanced until we're fighting them again. And then they become overwhelming because the more radio frequencies we use, the bigger and stronger they get. And so then they push us down back and so people stop using radios, and then people forget about using radios, and then things degrade, and then it comes back. And it's like this, it's like a noise gate, when you're doing audio stuff, you have a noise gate so that if the audio gets above a certain level, it pushes it down with a compressor or it cuts it off, And I was like, that'd be an interesting thought process, that it takes radio to wake them up, and then they fight us, and then we stop using radio, and then we forget about it because long enough goes by, and then we start using radio. And it's like, it makes me think of Gurren Lagann, where it's like you have to stay at a certain population, because if you reach a certain population, then everything goes terrible. You know what I mean? So
yeah, kind of on a vein where I've thought like, what kind of, now again, I know people can get into some conspiracy with this, but on a basic level, right? Like if we had a catastrophe today, right? And in several 100,000 or so years from now, people might look back at our period digging through stuff and kind of go, wow, these must have been pretty illiterate people. And yet, let's say they built these things, they seem to be connected in a way that we just can't understand, right? Because let's say whatever kind of knocks out, radios, cell phones, internet, right? And so like, especially like I would say if that happened, let's say like 30 years from now, right? The printed word, I mean, newspapers are out, magazines are
quickly disappearing.
Right? Books are a novelty.
Right.
And so in about 30 to 40 years, you'd probably be living in a pretty much technologically only society by most people. And then if something happened to that, right, archaeologists would look back and be like, wow, it's like they seem to build these like tracks or something that had like a bus on it or something, but like, how do they get it to move? But like, how do they coordinate this? Like, there's no written, documents of anything. Right. And, and let's say they start inventing something, like how many little like artifacts are sitting out there that could be the equivalent of what like RCDs, right? Or floppy disks.
Right. And just because we don't know how they would have used it. Well, it makes me think of that. There's this there's this board game that was played wildly in Rome, and we know the name of the game, right? We've seen boards of the game, but there's no instructions, because all instructions to how to play the game was passed word by word of mouth. And so it's like, here we have boards of the game from ancient Rome. Here we have people talking about playing the game, but no one thought to write down the rules, because everyone just taught the game to the next person who was going to play it,
Yeah. Something came up the other day, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it is or not, but I know there was something. I think my mind is going pyramids, but I don't think it's in the pyramids, but something like that in ancient Egypt. And some of the like pictures, there's people playing hopscotch, right? When was the last time you saw, instructions for hopscotch?
I've never seen.
For anyone that knows what hopscotch is.
I've never seen.
Right. It's just the kids teach it to another kid, right? And the kids ask like, who came, like, where did hide and seek come from? And it's just like, Well, it's one of those things that just,
Yeah.
you pass it along to the next person. No one wrote it down. It's just, something kids do. And then they tell the next kid. I'm thinking about like that board game. There was one where they had kind of figured out, it was almost like Go, except on a smaller scale, but maybe I'm thinking of something else that they would play. It was like closer to tic-tac-toe, but kind of like Go, right?
Okay.
Is that the one with all like the white, not Othello?
Yeah, the white and black, the Japanese game.
Yeah, it was close to that, but it was like, there was like 12 or like 16 squares or something. And it was like, you would connect, but then you would like try to connect or kind of corner out someone else's, and then you could take it off the board, right? It was some Roman game that it's like, it was scaled into like on the road. So at like road stops where it was just like someone would see a tic-tac-toe board, right? It was
right.
Anyways, but where is that? Because obviously, like if people played it, it probably morphed. Because I mean, we've played games, and I remember, playing games growing up where then like with our parents, together like our fathers, who then like we'd play a game and be like, wow, this is really cool. Now, what if we just change this part of the rule, like house rules?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like kind of in the same way that like Phase 10 is like Shanghai, right?
Right. Who knows if anyone listening to this even knows it's called, like, has ever called it Shanghai, but that's what I grew up calling it.
Yeah. I mean, because I know like both my like dad had played Shanghai and my mom had grown up playing Shanghai a little bit, but like there was like little rules that were completely different, like in like the different play sets.
Yeah.
Right. So you complete the thing and you move on, right? You run into people that's like, oh no, everybody moves on. It's like, okay. I thought, well, if you didn't complete that set, you had to redo it. Well, everybody else that did complete the set would move on, right? Or then like the pennies you bet to buy the pile, you only had the 3 of them for all 12 rounds. And so you had to be very careful where then someone's like, oh no, you get those back every time. And it's like, okay. And then where does it fall out of style? And some new version of it is what, we might know now as Othello or something. I don't know.
Right. Anyways.
It was a bit of a sidetrack.
Yeah, a little bit of a sidetrack, but still, it's interesting to think about those, people have been saying for as long as we've ever been at Mars that someday we're going to like happen upon, a piece of structure that looks like something man-made or hand-carved. And I hope we do.
I came across, and this was years ago, there was a conspiracy thing, and I think it had to do with like some Stargate stuff.
Right.
Not Stargate, the TV show, but like the real conspiracy that there is actually Stargates out there. So if, someone is interested in this stuff, but it gave the idea that there were structures on Mars and like there was a catastrophe, and the way that it was described was kind of like, oh, well, what if that was like partly a description, or like, because again, we grew up with the Bible and stuff like that, and then kind of thinking like, well, what if that was kind of like that idea of, the flood, right? Where then that ark, and then like that's Noah, like, right? So then Noah is coming to this other place, and that place is destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of what this conspiracy lightly implying.
I've also heard like,
but again,
that the Mars was like the garden, and then when they were cast out of the garden, they were sent to Earth, but
yeah, or maybe that was the next planet over, like, right. But that concept, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Which I think that's not that exact concept is touched on, but like that concept, because then again, with the planetary theory too, is that it's constantly drifting, right? And so technically Earth has, I don't know what it is, several 100,000 years or whatever it is inside of like the habitable belt.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And Mars is like just drifted out of that by like a couple thousand years or whatever. And so as it drifts, you think kind of like, okay, so then like, again, with like that new heavens and new Earth, is that something where then like the next one comes into play as they are drifting farther out, right?
Yeah.
But that was kind of part of the conspiracy anyways. But
absolutely. I'd love it if any of those were true, but I'm not going to stake my life or faith on it. It'll be awesome to find out that those things are true, but it'll also be really terrifying because that means that the world and the universe is a lot bigger than we thought it was. But anyways, any other ideas, any other cool things you wanted to talk about this episode, Seth?
I don't think anything that we haven't already touched on. I mean, again, I did enjoy, I mean, it was a bit at first, but I really liked all the ideas. I think I really like how we wrapped it up in that vein of it.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of having that flip around to be kind of that, oh, this is that hegemonic thing. And now you're kind of seeing it, which that's not necessarily great, but it was great, but not great. But this is kind of a propaganda thing. I think it's part of that's a twist that I don't think we've ever used before that I can remember.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun, but
that is kind of fun. I liked how we actually asked the question, like, is it maybe sometimes better to not tell the truth in order to save people? And I think overall the question was no. I mean, the answer was no, but I do not mind.
It's a hard thing to answer until you're in that situation.
Yeah, I do not mind asking those questions. I was actually just talking to a couple of friends of mine a couple of days ago about Star Trek, and I typically haven't really liked Star Trek because of its kind of overt, how do I say this? Trying to teach a lesson, and we were talking about it, and I realized that Star Trek really holds to more of an old world form of sci-fi. Like it's closer to like the Isaac Asimov and the Heinlein style of storytelling because of the fact that it does ask those questions. And I was like, I've enjoyed those older sci-fis for so long. I wonder if maybe I need to go back and revisit Star Trek and see if I do in fact enjoy it. So I thought that was kind of an interesting revelation. So I'm going to start rewatching Star Trek someday and then I'll report back. But I've drawn our next week story elements. Do you want to hear yours, Seth?
I do.
So you have prophecy. Reed has fiction by another name, and I have magic system. So fiction by another name is kind of an interesting one. We introduced it, and I think the idea is that we're going to write a story, but kind of like how Lion King was Hamlet, right? That's kind of the idea. Is that how Lion King was Hamlet? Then we choose a different fiction story, and then we write that story except by another name with different themes and different ideas, but trying to accomplish the same kind of stuff in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So then, did I say what I have? I have magic system. Reed has fiction by another name, and you have prophecy. And so that'll be interesting to see how fiction by another name and prophecy work together, because I think they will. Excuse me. I think they will work together ultimately, but it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
It'll be interesting. I know. I'll have to think about it so that I'm not like, let's say, looking at the Count of Monte Cristo, because that's what I'm looking at my bookshelf here, and that's like straight in front of me.
Yeah.
And going, oh, okay, I'm going to use something that plays into the Count of Monte Cristo, and just skipping over here, and I got the Odyssey.
Oh yeah,
Homer's Odyssey, and Reed going, okay, so this is the Odyssey, but by a different name, and it's like, okay. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. If it doesn't work, we'll adjust it midstream. It'll be fine, I'm sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better, the podcast where we always have fun. There's never a dull moment here. If you would like to contact us to tell us about how we could do better, how we're doing a great job, or how you don't like us at all, give us an email. Send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. Message us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Bye.